Happy Wednesday, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight, we're going to be talking about multiple residencies. That is correct. It is entirely up to you to make sure that you have every single opportunity in the world to make money anywhere that you happen to be in the world. I'm from Canada. I think you all know that. And as a Canadian, I can tell you that Canada as a country is over. It's not even really a country anymore. It's been an economic zone more than anything else for the last 2 decades. And with the inset of Bill 287, Bill C-63, Bill C-11, all these new laws that they want to bring in, there's absolutely no reason for anybody to stay in Canada or try to do business there. As I've told everybody, I went the better part of almost 21 full years in Canada, not able to make money. Why? Because if you have ambition and drive in Canada, the Canadian populace and mindset is one of drilling you down, silencing you. You got to fit in like a cog in a wheel. So those of us out there who have a big mouth like I do, and a lot of really good ideas, are not allowed to experiment with them, and we're not allowed to succeed. Whenever guys like myself do have success, we are silenced. Even Kevin O'Leary, you know, Mr. Wonderful, the bald guy from Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, even he has left Canada. He lives in Maine now. He wants nothing to do with that kind of a country. But then I came to Panama, and a guy like me with a big mouth who has drive and ambition has not only one, but 2 corporations running here now. One's profitable and one's building up. And that's what it's all about, everybody, is I have the ability to be here in Panama making money because I know how to do things on the international scale. And my guest tonight's even better at it than I am by a lot. So without further ado, let's bring in Kim Park. Kim, great to see you once again. Thank you for being here. Tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me. I'm Kim Park. I was raised in Sweden, spent 20 years in Sweden, another 20 years in Norway. Then I moved to Bulgaria, put my toes into the international market to reduce my taxes. And then I found out that the winters were too cold, so I moved to Mexico. And as you may or may not know, Mexico is one of the better places when it comes to freedom. During the health hoax last time, we had open borders. We had no quarantines on arrival, no testing. It was pretty much the most open and free country in the world. So now I help people get 2nd and 3rd residencies, reduce taxes legally, and company formations and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about that. So I'm very stoked.
Well, we certainly are. The one thing I did want to say is that a lot of my fan base out there, a lot of people that have been watching me on the internet for the last 7 years are asking me, can you open a bank account in Panama without actually physically being here? I promised all of you I would find that out. And it turns out, yes, you can. So if you want to open up a bank account in Panama remotely, get a hold of me at my website, kevinjjohnston.me. It's my name.me. And if you go to international services on my website, you will find it there. You can open a bank account in Panama, and we can start getting you doing business down here as quickly as possible. Now, Kim, we want you to explain to people when they leave Canada, United States, Great Britain, Sweden, or otherwise, what's the difference between citizenship and residency? Go ahead.
So I think it's important to understand first that there is absolutely no limit to the amount of residencies that you can have. For example, I have 6 residencies in 6 different countries, and I'm actually about to travel back to Bulgaria next month to finalize my application for the permanent status in Bulgaria. So then I have 6 permanent status residencies. And the good part about residencies is that you can work yourself up towards citizenship. So it's a very good way to plant seeds in different countries that you can use. And as you may or may not know, different residencies are used for different purposes. So some residencies may be great for lifestyle, some may be great for investments, some may be better for taxes. And there's absolutely no residency or country on this planet that has everything. There's no one size fits all, so to speak. So it's important to understand that if you want to optimize your possibilities and when you go abroad, you need multiple residencies and you need to do your homework and find out exactly which benefits you want to get in place.
All right. So a residency versus a citizenship. Let's start with Mexico because you live there currently. What would the difference be and the advantages and so on? Go ahead.
I think the main difference when you have a citizenship is obviously the passport. That's the benefit. But then you have the other differences, which can be that you have to join the military and you may be able to vote, which is not really something that we want to do anyway. So I think the main reason is the passport, and also to have a secure place to come back to. I remember during the health hoax, Australia, they wouldn't even let their own citizens back into their country. So most people think that a citizen, it should protect you to be able to get back into your own country. Otherwise, it's not worth much. But in some cases, governments and countries go rogue, like Australia. And these days, it seems like both Canada and Australia takes turns trying to compete on being the worst communistic place on the planet. So,
oh yeah, we just had a gentleman on my show last night who fought in the Korean War on behalf of Australia, and he says the same thing that you just said, that Canada and Australia are doing their best to outdo each other in communism and policies that are harmful to their people. You living in Mexico right now, formerly from Sweden, what is the advantage to your Mexican residency? So people understand that. Go ahead.
Having a residency, obviously, whatever way you're getting into the residency program, obviously the main goal is to get the permanent status. And we help people fast track the permanent residency within a very short period of time. And the benefit is that you can do all the things that the locals can do. You can open bank accounts, you can get the driver's license, you have benefits tax-wise when you're selling properties and investing. So residencies basically gives you the same rights as the locals. And it's very important to understand, because a lot of people, they try to go to countries like Mexico and they think they can stay here indefinitely and do border runs and just cross the border and get new visa renewed. But the authorities are onto these methods, so it doesn't really work that way anymore. So residencies is absolutely important if you're going to spend any amount of time or do business in a country.
Okay, so if I was to go to Mexico right now and I want to do business with you or with anybody for that matter, do I need to be a resident or can I just show up and do business?
No, I mean, you can start a company, but everything is a lot easier when you have the residency, because you can't do much without the residency. So life just becomes so much easier, and you basically use your residency card no matter what you're going to do in society. So you need it in order to have a normal life and do business as well. So everything is a lot easier when you have the residency card.
Yeah, and there's something to do with buying and selling a property. It's better as a resident in Mexico. If you could maybe elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, I mean, you do get tax write-offs and benefits when you have the residency, as opposed to just being a foreigner. And when you come down as a foreigner and buy properties, a lot of people just put the real estate into a bank trust. That's the most common way to do it. The reason why I don't like the bank trust, there are some ways you can use it, but the reason why I don't like it is because you can't really do any write-offs. You can't really deduct anything. So if you form a corporation in Mexico and you put your property or a piece of land or whatever you're going to invest in this company, you can actually make deductions and run it as a business. And that is obviously a lot more efficient, cost-effective way to do everything.
All right. Now, it's funny how we've always got the armchair quarterback, the armchair lawyer, the armchair immigration expert, the armchair everything. So I'm being told by various people, because I think what it is, people just heard something. They forget where, but they just heard. I just heard you can only be a resident of one country at a time. You can only have one residency. This Kim guy, he's not a good guy. You know, he's lying to you. So, right, where do people? First off, let's not even bother getting into where people get this information from. But this multiple residency thing, you and I talked about this. I'm completely intrigued about being a resident of 6, 10, 12 countries. So I want to talk to you about the legality behind this? Because the average person doesn't understand that you can do this, and they're probably afraid to do it. So should they be afraid, and can it be done legally? Go ahead.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you can open as many residencies as you wish, but I absolutely agree with you. There's so much misinformation, online. I was Googling, the amount of residencies that you can have, and you have these forums online where people are discussing things, and it's absolutely disgusting how many people are spreading information that is absolutely not true. So I saw a lot of information where people are talking, yeah, you can only have one permanent residency and you have to renounce the other residency. That's absolutely not true. In terms of citizenships, that's true for some countries because certain countries have different rules to the amount of citizenships you can have. But the amount of residencies, there's absolutely no limit. And that's why I'm collecting residencies and I'm helping clients to get as many residencies as possible, because it's basically optionality. So in this uncertain world with everything that's going on, we basically have to accept that we live in a clown world where governments they have these ridiculous agendas and these ridiculous policies that they're rolling out, and it gets worse and worse by the day. So it's absolutely paramount to protect both our businesses and families and ourselves with multiple residencies. And I think a lot of people are not awake to the fact that it's actually not as hard as they may think as well to obtain a residency, a second or third residency, and all the benefits that they get with it.
Okay, let's get into what you do, especially with the multiple residencies thing. You can get people a residency in Mexico for 2 weeks and also Paraguay. It looks to me like we're going to be able to get people residencies here in Panama in between 2 and 4 weeks without property purchase. Let's talk about this. You are going to get people into Paraguay. Why would you do that? And then why would you get people to Mexico as well? I got to hear this. And then I'm going to tell you why I would get people here into Panama. You're up.
Absolutely. So let's start with Mexico. I think Mexico is a very easy choice because a lot of, probably 85% of my clients that I work with, they're from Canada and a lot of Americans as well, obviously. But the proximity to Mexico makes it a very easy move. And also we have the same time zones, which means that it's not a big step for people who want to do business, so they can work the same business hours. And as I mentioned before, Mexico has demonstrated during earlier crises where we had problems, how they handle such a situation. And you remember how virtually every country on this planet shut down during this hoax, basically this global hoax. And they were basically harassing people at the airports, and they were forcing people into quarantines, and they were, forcing people to take these disgusting poisonous injections. And Mexico proved to be the country that actually welcomed people to come in. They had no restrictions whatsoever, and they actually tried to have a lockdown for 2 weeks, and the people just rose up and wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have it. So I think the Mexican people are very pro-freedom. It's a country where you have, it's easier to source clean food. People are very independent and they like freedom. You have excellent climate. I mean, I always say Mexico is such a diverse country. So it doesn't matter what you're looking for. You can find mountainous regions, white beaches, small sleepy beach towns, big cities. It's a country of 129 million people. It's a third of the United States landmass. So it's basically a very big country. So if we, against all odds, would have a hard lockdown in Mexico, it's still a huge country, so you could travel inside of Mexico. But I think it's absolutely important to look at the history, and Mexico has definitely demonstrated that it's one of the better countries in terms of freedom. And it's also very pro-business, so it's easy to form corporations here and start businesses. And we have very good connections in the government, so we can get you all the permits and all the documents that you need. And we also help people get the permanent residency. And basically, my take on Mexico is that it's great for lifestyle and it's also great for property investments, but it's not so good for taxes. And that brings me to our next choice, because we are, both me and you, Kevin, we like Mexico, we like Paraguay, we like Panama, and there are very distinct reasons why we like Panama and Paraguay. And the reason why is because Paraguay and Panama are zero taxation residency countries. You can get a residency where you can reduce your taxes legally all the way down to zero through something called territorial taxation. It's not a myth, it's not illegal, it's absolutely 100% legal. It's the law in these countries. So what it basically states is that Paraguay and Panama, they charge taxes on income that is generated inside the country. And that's a very fair taxation system, because why would they have any interest in money outside their country? It's not their business, right? So these countries understand this, and that's why I like Paraguay and Panama. I've been traveling there several times back since 2003. I've been backpacking when I was young. It was absolutely beautiful backpacking through South America. I did Central America several times, backpacking as well. And I love all these countries, Latin American countries, because you can basically own properties 100% in your name or in your company, as opposed to, for example, Asia, which I have been traveling extensively through Asia and tried different things and looked things up. And it's very, very difficult to own properties. Citizenship, you can forget about. It's impossible to get citizenship in Asia. You may get a residency, but properties, you need a local partner who owns 51% or more in Asia, which means that it opens up for you being scammed in the future, right? So you don't have any control, but in Latin America, you do. So why we like Paraguay and Panama is because if you establish a business outside of Paraguay or Panama, let's say you open an LLC in the United States, it's one of the more popular places where we help clients get their business set up. And what America is doing is that they're basically asking you, okay, are you a resident or a citizen of the United States? And you say, no, I'm from Canada, I'm from Sweden, I'm from outside. Okay, great. Then you need to go and pay taxes where you are tax resident. And where might that be? That might be in Paraguay, that might be in Panama, which is why everybody should have a tax residency. And residency in Paraguay or Panama can basically reduce your taxes legally for the rest of your life. Because if you make your money through that LLC, you can charge clients, you can bill people, businesses, whatever, from your LLC. And as long as that money is generated there outside of Paraguay or Panama, Panama and Paraguay doesn't want any taxes.
Okay, so I can confirm that. I've gone through this with my lawyer down here in Panama. Everybody, is if you register a corporation here in Panama, you can do business with Canadians, or you could do business with Kim here in Mexico, and bring the money into Panama, keep it in your Panamanian corporate account, and pay zero. That's in French, by the way. Zero tax, zero, not a single solitary penny. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting, Kim, is that I've got a couple of corporations myself in various countries around the world. Those countries themselves cannot tax what I am making because it is being made by me in Panama here. Even though those corporations are going to act only as the catalyst to getting a bank account in those countries, the check goes into that bank account and then gets transferred here. And that's it. That's how it works. Now, for those of you in Canada who are excessively concerned about the Canada Revenue Agency, and you should be, because, Kim, I don't know if you're aware of what Canada Revenue Agency is doing, but they're going out of their way to threaten every single solitary Canadian, telling them that they owe tax even though they don't. So people who make $0 or they're on welfare, they might make $25,000 a year, are getting tax bills of $50,000 to $75,000. And so I'm helping them get rid of these tax bills, but the CRA is still trying. Now they're also going back and nailing people on tax shelter work they did more than 10 years ago. Now, I always thought the law said you can't go back more than 10 years. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't care. They are literally going back 15, 17, 18 years on people's taxes. So today, I'm proud to say that we opened up 3 bank accounts for 3 Canadians who had the Canada Revenue Agency do this. And all of their money came down to Panama the same day. And those folks are all getting on planes and coming down to see me. I'm picking them up at the airport this weekend so they can go and meet the bank managers and just talk at length about their money being here. And that's exactly what I'm doing for people now in Panama. And I don't have to declare the income here because they paid me in Canada. Isn't that amazing?
Exactly. It's
like,
very
where
important.
Can you do this in Canada? Let's go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
Exactly. No, it's very important to understand how things work, and it's actually a lot easier once you get into it. But first thing we need to understand is that taxes are theft, and there's no person or entity on this planet that have the right to take what you have been working. You have put in your sweat and tears and labor into this work, and now you're getting paid. And I remember when I was running businesses in Sweden and Norway, you know, Scandinavia, it's even worse than Canada. And they taxed me 60, sometimes 70%. I mean, can you imagine working from January and you working all the way until August, September, Jesus, into October for free? Are you kidding me? Somebody comes and take joint? Yeah, that's our money. You've been working all year long. You built up a business. You've been working for somebody, and they just come and take it. Obviously, that's not fair. And when you look back to what happened in Europe and Sweden during many years ago, when you had the sheriff riding around and shaking everybody around and taking the money, it's basically what they're doing. You have these backstabbing people working for governments. You have hundreds and hundreds of people in each country who are hired to steal your money on behalf of the government. And obviously that's not fair. So right. A lot of people say there's nothing more patriotic than paying taxes. I beg to differ. There's nothing more patriotic than avoiding taxes legally, because politicians, prostitute politicians who are supposed to work for us, they take your money and they spend it like drunken sailors, and there's absolutely nothing legal about it. It's broad daylight theft. It's nothing else than that. So reducing your taxes legally is absolutely something that everybody should do, because obviously you are a lot better than the government at spending your money wisely. You know exactly what you need, and the government is just using it on warfare and shady programs that's surveilling you and tracking you. And they may say that it's going to good programs and everything, but it's just a tiny fraction. And they're taking out all these huge mortgages and loans, and you have to pay for that as a taxpayer. It's not fair. And they are doing backdoor deals under the table with huge corporations, and they're getting yachts and mega mansions put into offshore trusts in their name to get as a bribe, just because they're passing bills and laws. We need to rise up and basically be done with this, because it's not fair. And there's a lot of good, hardworking people, both in Europe and North America, that deserve better. And they have been working very, very hard for the money. And obviously it's better if they keep it so they can spend it on their business or their family and make it grow.
All right. Well, I agree with you that taxation is theft. There was a day when taxes were useful. I mean, we used to get roads built for us, and airports and shipping ports and schools and libraries and streetlights and traffic lights and hospitals we used to get all that stuff for our tax money. With Justin Trudeau sinking Canada into $1.5 trillion in debt, we got no new highways, no new airports, no new shipping ports. We have Montreal and Victoria, 2 very big cities in Canada, who still do not have proper sewer systems or treatment for sewage. So Montreal is dumping tons of human excrement into the St. Lawrence River every single day. And so is Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island, and all the small towns around it. They're all just dumping human excrement and toilet paper and everything else into the Pacific Ocean, which ends up in the Bay of Seattle. the Americans are like, what are they going to do? Go to war with Canada over all this feces? We're not getting anything for our money. So why are we spending any money on taxes whatsoever? I'm going to be giving a seminar, everybody. You're going to like this one. It's only $25. It's a seminar next Monday. That's going to be, hold on, June. It's June already. Wow. Monday, June 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be talking to you about how in Canada to legally and properly never pay taxes again. And it's not that free man on the land crap. And it's not that OPAC stuff, because that stuff's going to get you in trouble. And it's not the fake common law court stuff that you hear here in Canada. No, we're going to play the actual game properly. So anybody who's interested in that, that's 9 p.m. It's $25. Just throw a $25 donation on my website, kevinjjohnston.com, and we'll get you in there. You're going to love this information, everyone. It'll be on Zoom where you can actually interact and ask questions. So, Kim, taxation theft, let's not pay it. Let's set up tax residencies here. If someone called you today, living in Mexico, how would you set things up for them? Walk me through how someone becomes a Mexican resident and then also has a business where they're not paying tax. You're on. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I usually recommend something I call the three-step game plan, and it's basically the three most important steps that I've been taking myself. So I'm a big proponent of trying it out myself so I know that things work out. And the first step is to get a second residency. And I do recommend, no matter where you're going to go in the world, I still recommend having Mexico as a second or a third residency in your back pocket. Why? Because Mexico is one of the few countries on the planet that has absolutely no minimum requirement to maintain their residency. This is something that we've been talking about before, but it's very important to understand because most countries, no matter where you go and set up a residency, you have always a certain amount of days or a certain amount of entries per year that you have to put into the country. Otherwise, you lose the residency. I usually mention a very sad story. I was talking to a lady who had a residency in Ecuador, and she had permanent status, and she actually lost her permanent status because she didn't have enough time in the country. How frustrating is that, right?
Oh.
So in addition to all the goodies, the benefits that you have from Mexico, excellent investment opportunities, great weather, excellent food, amazing people, friendly for business, everything, you can also use it for great lifestyle and investment. So I think that's a great second residency to have. Then my second recommendation, the second step of the three-step game plan is basically to put some money into a cash flow property. Because when you go abroad, one of the biggest concerns is to how to generate a good cash flow. And if you do invest in a property in a hotspot like Playa del Carmen, where I'm located, you can do extremely well. I usually got 6 to 7% annual return on my properties in Scandinavia. I had apartments, I rented out rooms to students, and I was happy with that. That's like a normal standard. And I think it's pretty much the same in Canada, like maybe 7-8% annual return. But when I came to Playa del Carmen, because this is a hotspot where you have so many tourists and expats coming in all year round, we actually have 4 high seasons throughout the year, you can do extremely well. And here it's not uncommon that you get returns up in the double digits between 15 and 18% annual return. For example, I'm involved in developing a small hotel right now, and the numbers there are even crazier. So it's all about what you want to do. Some people come down, they buy raw land for development, they create like a jungle resort, or they create like a getaway place, or they want to buy just a condo, or they want to buy a house or a small building. It doesn't matter. You can do extremely well on cash flow if you rent it out in a place like Playa del Carmen. One more thing I wanted to mention, a lot of people are talking about Tulum. And I know that Tulum is very, famous. It's Instagram famous, everybody heard about Tulum. But in reality, when people get there, they realize that Tulum is just like a dusty little town that doesn't really have much going for it, with just overpriced apartment. Everybody got in, but they don't really have much more than just one high season, and it's 40 minutes away from the ocean, which means that Playa del Carmen, which has real infrastructure, it's a real city with all the conveniences, versus Tulum, where you don't have any cinemas, no shopping malls, no nothing. They did open an airport. I'm actually going to travel from that airport the day after tomorrow. So they did open an airport that is actually international. So Tulum may be a very good place to have an investment in the future. But right now, it's not really a real city. It's just a dusty city. It doesn't have street lights in many of the streets. When you're walking at night, you may just fall into the ditch because you can't see anything when you're walking. So you got to be careful where you do investment. But I think Playa del Carmen is a very solid choice because you have so many people coming in all year round. And if you choose the right property in the right area, you can do extremely well. And I will be more than happy to show people around if they do come down and they chose to invest. And we can deal sometimes directly with the owner. And like I said before, the way it works down here is that you have basically two price structures. You have the tourist scam price that every broker is trying to push on the tourists. This is quite normal in a lot of touristy places around the world, right? And what a lot of tourists don't realize is that they're paying 25, sometimes 30% more than they have to. So my job when I'm working with people is basically to make sure that you don't fall for the tourist scam price, that you get the real price that the locals are paying. And if we're looking around and find different options that you like, we can do very well by finding exactly the property that can cash flow. The focus is always on getting maximized returns, right? So.
All right. So we're getting somebody in the comment here saying that Canada has the majority of the world's fresh water. That actually is true. The province of Ontario has 1/6 of the world's fresh water in its lake and river system. There is a ton of fresh water in Canada. Mexico has water, by the way. We just know that Mexico City is having a real problem because the whole city is sinking. But if you want to know why that is, what you got to do is look up the history of the Aztecs and the reason why they selected the area they did. Because one of their legends, Kim, stated that when they were looking for a new spot to build their capital, they had to find an eagle eating a snake standing on top of a cactus. And when someone finally found that, it happened to be this marsh, which they then turned into Tenochtitlan, their capital, which is now Mexico City, which is now sinking under the weight of the actual city itself, which means that the water pipes are bursting and they're pumping twice as much water in as they normally would have to because the water's like leaking into the soil, which is making the city sink more. I guess the point you're trying to make there, Grigo, would be that maybe you want to have a water import business, perhaps. Can Canadians do importing into Mexico as opposed to Mexico doing all the exporting? Go ahead.
You know, that's another point, very important. A lot of businesses are relocating to Mexico these days. I know a lot of manufacturing and mega factories are moving over from China. There are huge mega parks in the north around Monterrey and other cities where Tesla and other manufacturers are moving in. So there are a lot of developments, and they also have this railroad that's going to connect the two oceans, you know, from the Pacific all the way to the Caribbean Ocean. That's going to compete with the Panama Canal. And then you have the airport in Tulum, the international airport. And you also have the Maya train, which is going to be a speed train that's going to connect the whole peninsula around here, around Tulum, Playa del Carmen, Cancun, and all the other cities on the peninsula. So it's going to bring in a lot of people as well. So I think, you know, if a foreigner want to start a business, it's very business friendly. You have a lot of opportunities down here. And, you know, if you come down, we have a great team of lawyers that can help you form a corporation quickly, set up getting all the paperwork in order. So there are vast opportunities. I know a lot of people have good ideas who come down and do very, very well.
Well, I can tell you that Latin America and South America is where the money is. I mean, it was, Kim, it was really bad in Canada. I mean, with the skill set I have, I was just simply not allowed to work, not allowed to run businesses. And Canadians really, inside of Canada, they have no idea how to run a business. It's a very difficult country to do business in. But then I came down to Mexico. I checked out Playa del Carmen for 4 days. I was floored at how much commerce was taking place in that town. And I was excited on the main drag in Playa del Carmen, where all the tourists go. You go from $21 margaritas on that strip to just one street over where you get $2 margaritas. But
absolutely.
you can open a business there and make money. Now, here I am in Panama City. I've only been here 5.5 weeks. I've got 2 businesses running. They're already making money. And we've got a soft launch of my new business coming up in less than 4.5 weeks. We're going to be getting Canadians to come down to Panama because Panama's medical care is 20 years ahead of Canada. So if you want to get cancer screening, bones fixed, MRIs, CT scans, imagine Canada, where right now you're waiting between 12 and 18 months for an MRI, getting an MRI in one day, and then getting the results the next day. You can do that. I can do that for you here in Panama. I can't do that for anybody in Canada at all. I'd get arrested for selling medical services. Right? But here, you can sell medical services so long as the medical services are licensed, which of course they are. Wow. Yeah. Money, folks. There's money here.
Absolutely.
Come on down.
I've traveled a lot of times in Panama and Paraguay and also Mexico, of course, and I can definitely vouch for all 3 countries. If one suits you better, you're probably going to find a lot of opportunities and a lot of goodies down there that you didn't expect. You know, Panama is a great country. It's a little bit small for my taste, but it's a very good country because you have the diversity. You can live up in the mountains. You can have, you know, these Caribbean white beach islands. There are actually islands for sale in Panama that I know of. I was diving with whale sharks off the coast of Panama a few years ago. It's great for nature and it's excellent for business. You know, when you come to Panama City, it's almost like arriving in Miami. You think you're in Miami, but because of the skyscrapers in the harbor there, but it's actually just Panama City. And Panama City is an excellent place. And you have so many different areas where you can find like these street food vendors that basically give you like a full meal for just $1 or $2. And then you have really fancy restaurants and bars as well. So you can basically find everything. And if you guys are interested in setting up shop in Panama, you can contact both Kevin and me, and we can help you to get company formation and also get the residencies ordered if you want.
Well, you're correct to say that. A lot of people are absolutely floored about Panama City and just how modern it really is. I've been going live on various social media, showing people how modern and futuristic the malls are. They're out of control. I mean, I was in a bowling alley today here in Panama City. We're over top of the pins. They've got 200-inch television sets, like not 100-inch, 200-inch TVs playing soccer game, and some really weird sci-fi movie in the middle. And then they've got the laser lights, the neon lights, the whole bit. It's more modern than anything in Canada. I can tell you that right now. I've been chatting with some of the regional managers and some of the politicians here, because you can actually just walk into a politician's office in Panama and talk with them. And it turns out they're looking for investors. Anybody want to build an amusement park? We can get you permits in about, a week now. If anyone would like to build drop towers and roller coasters and a water park and so on, there's no such thing in Panama. You would just absolutely kick ass if you open up an amusement park here, because you've all seen the Mexican water parks where you've got the slides that they go down about 90 feet and then they've got that big ramp at the end and you're 20 feet in the air. Like, you don't have that in Canada. You're not allowed to have fun in Canada at all. Everything about Latin America is about having a good time. And if you want to build it, they'll let you. Now, just keep in mind, everybody, when you do decide to do something here in Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and so on, budget for Greece, okay? It's called Greece. We call it Greece. I had to explain the euphemism of Greece to some Spaniards down here, which was awesome because we're all laughing our heads off. I had to explain that back in the 1930s in America, it would be, you put some grease on the guy's hand and, that was considered money, right? So you're going to have to do a little bit of bribing here and there, but who cares? I mean, what happens in Canada? Whenever you try to bribe someone, they arrest you. But what happens if you don't bribe somebody? you don't get to open your shop. So come to Latin America, throw some grease at the guy, build what you want, make some money. All right, there you are. So when Kim and I, well, Kim doesn't say it, I do. Whenever we refer to budget for Greece, I'll tell you what that budget is going to be. It might be $1,000 to get your permits. It might be 10,000. It might be 100. Some of these guys will do it for a New York Yankees baseball hat. So what I'm getting at, Kim, is it's easy to get residencies in these countries. And when you do, you begin to learn how it works very well, very quickly, and you can make money. Who cares about Greece? Just make the money. Because Kim, the reason I bring that up is not to be funny and not to be sinister. But when I was running for mayor in my hometown of Mississauga, population 1.2 million in Canada, there was a guy that came running over to me and shook my hand. He was paying the lease on a space for a barbershop. It's a franchise called Sport Cuts. So there's TVs in the mirrors and you talk about sports. You could watch a sports game while you're getting your haircut. He was paying $4,000 a month and had been paying $4,000 a month in rent. He had spent $200,000 getting this place built, and he couldn't open it because the city officials kept finding some kind of health concern. Yeah. Something was always wrong in there, and he could never open the door. So he said, well, I'm going to vote for you. Will you let me open my shop if you win? I said, yeah. Not only that, you can point out who it was that wouldn't let you open, and I'll fire him. How does that sound? That's how bad it is in Canada. So could you imagine? Go ahead.
I think that's one of the I think that's one of the benefits with Latin America in general, that everything is figure outable. Everything is you have a possibility to fix things, and if you have the right contacts, you can even fix things a lot quicker. So when you come down to Latin America, it doesn't matter if you do Panama, Mexico, or Paraguay. You will find endless opportunities of doing business, and sometimes you can apply ideas and concepts that you have in your home country, just move that concept into the country, and all of a sudden you have filled a gap in the market, right?
Yeah, and it can be done in that if you do want to speak to a local politician in Panama and Costa Rica, for sure. I don't know about Mexico, Kim, but I do know that in these two countries you can. And when you have the opportunity to speak to the regional managers or the mayors or whomever, you'll get things done a whole lot faster. Because what they want to hear in Latin American countries is that I am a gringo and I've got money, and your town's going to make money if you give me what I want. And the odds of you getting a building permit are almost 100% here. Whereas think about how difficult it is to get a building permit to have maybe a wine cantina in your basement, or to have a pool in your backyard in Canada. Now, I had friends of mine, it took them 2 years to get a permit to build a pool in their backyard. Why is it so difficult to do what you want with your property in Canada? Well, it's not here. It's your property. Do what you want. Just don't break the law. There we are. Kim, multiple residencies. What would be the top 3 outside of Canada, United States, that you would suggest? Go ahead.
Well, obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I would obviously recommend the residencies that I've chosen because I've chosen them very carefully. But I would recommend Latin America above all other countries, especially right now, because Latin America has a lot more to offer, and it's also more free, and it's also more friendly to own the properties outright and doing business. Mm-hmm. So if I were you and you want to get your feet wet in the offshore market, I would get a second residency. It doesn't matter if it's Mexico, Paraguay, or Panama. But either way, when you have a second residency, you have an option. And as you may know, in Canada, I talk to Canadians every single day. I'm on calls with Canadians, and they tell me the same story. The country is headed in the wrong direction. You have all these bills coming out, C11, C63. It's stating that if you, offend somebody online with a comment, you can be jailed, not just jailed, but for life, apparently. I'm not sure I would like to live in a country like that, where they take away free speech and they basically restrict you in any way possible. and you have runaway inflation, and to the point where it's not even possible to put food on the table for a lot of people. So I think there's so many reasons why you would want to leave Canada right now. I actually visited Canada back in 2006. It used to be a decent place, right? But these days, everything is upside down. And if you have the possibility, I would definitely establish a second residence if you have an option for yourself, for your business, or for your family, so you can, go when the shit hits the fan. Because there's a lot of things that's coming down. The social credit score is on its way. And once they establish this central bank digital currency, it's coming. It's coming like a freight train.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand how serious this is, because the central bank digital currency, it's not like an ordinary currency. It will be trackable, traceable, and programmable. That's the big thing. It's programmable. So if you have opinions, or if the government doesn't like your viewpoints, they can basically turn off your money or restrict you, or you may not be able to buy certain items or certain services. So it's basically like China. They're basically restricting you. And they will give you this social credit score where you get lower points, and all of a sudden you can't get on a flight. And I even remember I had some Canadians in, I think it was 2022, some Canadians who had problems leaving the country. It smells a lot like Australia there. So then you have the ESG score, which is basically the ESG is basically the social credit score for companies. So when you see these companies that have these woke agendas, and you saw even Starbucks had like days where the employees were running around looking like gay lords, all of them. It's not the company itself that want to do these things, but BlackRock and Vanguard and all of these evil corporations that basically own the whole market, they, together with the World Economic Forum, are implementing all these insane policies to break down society by division. And that's by design. So when you see all this chicanery that's going on in society, it's by design. So eventually people will tell the government that they need a solution. They will beg for a solution. That's basically what the end game is. And once that's coming, they will obviously have their plan rolled out from their drawer. They will just pull out, and guess what's inside it? Central bank digital currencies and social credit score, just like Soviet Union. And you will not be able to move around. You will not be able to have free speech. You will not have control of your money. So before the government takes control of your money, and they will basically just flip the switch. One day you will wake up, one morning on a Monday, you will wake up and all the banks were maybe closed during the weekend. On Monday, your money was converted into central bank digital currencies without consent. Yes, and when that happens, you're basically screwed. So that's why Kevin and I are working to help people to get your money out of Canada as soon as possible, so you can put it into a yield-producing piece of real estate that can outside of Canada, outside the reach of the government.
Yes. Okay. So there are a lot of folks that are asking me now in private email here, how do we move all of our money into Panama? I tell you what, everyone, join me on my private session on Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's $25. I'm going to teach you how to do that. First off, if you are going to stay in Canada, you need to know how to never pay tax again, legally, with absolutely no consequences whatsoever. It's not free man on the land nonsense. It's actually using the real system in Canada for that, but how to get your money out and how to protect yourself from everything that the Canada Revenue Agency is doing. So it's going to be a 1 hour of me explaining things, and then there's going to be Q&A afterwards. It'll be a Zoom call for all of you. It's $25 for this coming Monday. You can see it in the chat there, right below me. Just go to my website, kevinjjohnston.me/donate. Donate $25, and I will on Monday be sending you out the link to come into the show. Get your questions ready. I want you to understand this. I've been working very hard on making sure that I understood tax law in Canada inside and out, which I do. And I'm very happy to know Kim here, who has been studying international commerce for years. How long now, Kim? A couple of years? 10?
About 2016. So
Yeah.
it's
Almost
very
10.
interesting.
8 years.
Yeah,
8
when you
years.
find out what's possible, and it's not just for rich people. Ordinary people can absolutely protect ourselves through different entities internationally, and it's a lot easier. Obviously, it's a little bit more to it, but me and Kevin would be more than happy to make a plan for you. So reach out, and we will be happy to help.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to get a hold of Kim, who's on my show right now over here on TikTok, especially, just head over to my website there. You'll see on the bottom, kevinjjohnston.com. Hit the contact page, put Kim in the subject line, and I'll make sure Kim and I get a hold of you as quickly as possible. Kim will help you get your Mexican and your Paraguayan residency fast. That's what this man does. I'm just going to see any more questions here. Does Panama have an extradition treaty with Canada? Yes. But it's got to be a very, very, very extremely serious crime that Interpol would care about before they would even consider talking to Pervo Justin Trudeau. So, by the way, Trudeau is not popular in Costa Rica, and he's not popular here either. People here know about him, and they don't like him very much. I think here, all right, for everybody on TikTok, I'm going to stick around for an extra 20 minutes or so and answer those questions. Kim, we got to go. Any concluding remarks you'd like to make? Go ahead.
I think it's important for people to understand that the time to get second and third residencies, to establish insurances and contingencies for you, your business, and your family is now, before everything is happening, when you will have a tidal wave of Americans and Canadians leaving the country. When the shit really hits the fan, it will be too late. So the time to get the residencies in place is now. You need to have insurances, second residencies, zero taxation residencies. You will need to have cash flow properties. You will need Bitcoin, gold. That's a different video, of course. But you need insurances and protect yourself. That's
absolutely. And protect yourself with our help. And there's one question here I must address. Someone says, so give all of our money to you, I suppose you and I, Kim, and we will look after it. No, we don't take your money at all. It goes directly to the bank. The last thing on this planet that I want to do is hold on to someone's money. No, thank you. That is too much responsibility. So
we will help you designate your money into wise investments and places where you can have your money safely away from the Canadian government. That's all. That's
it. Right. And we don't touch it. The banks do. And that's what we do is we introduce you to the appropriate bank managers, and they do the job for you. Kim, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being here. As soon as anyone gets a hold of me, believe me, you and I will be talking to them, and we're going to have a great time doing it.
All right. Have a good one.
Wonderful. All right. That's Kim Park, everybody, who is your Mexican expert. This guy has traveled the world. He knows a lot about a lot, and he is the right guy to talk to. So just get a hold of me right here, right there on my website, and just put Kim, K-I-M, in the subject line. He and I will get a hold of you ASAP. That is it for now, everybody. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Real Estate and Money Show. Don't forget, on this coming Monday, I am talking to people privately about how to hide your money within Canada and how to defeat the Canada Revenue Agency. It's $25 for a private chat. That way you can ask questions directly. We all get a chance to see each other's faces and have some real conversation about how all this taxation works. It's $25. I'll talk for an hour, and then I take questions immediately following it. You can go ahead and sign up for that at kevinjjohnston.com. That is it for now. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will see you all next week on freedomreport.ca.